Okay. Hi, everyone. Just making sure I have everything ready to go here. I have a special video for today. It's not going to be the usual Chess 4 content. It's going to be a bit of an informational video talking about some things that are happening in the future with this channel, and also a little bit about me. And then we'll end with a recent two-player game that I played in a tournament. And I'm just going to do some analysis. It was basically my favorite game that I played from that tournament, so I hope you also enjoy that. First topic on my little notepad list here is my chess 4 rating is above 1800 now. I've been having some people in the comments who wish to see me play more, and I've said that I do play a few games off stream, not every day, but probably an average of 1 to 2 per day if you count up the whole week. So yeah, I guess I'll talk about that in a bit. Bit about me. I am actually, and this is connected to chess, so bear with me. I am actually a teacher in China. Right now I teach at a high school, and I teach AP courses mainly. So I teach AP Calculus, Economics, and Statistics. And of course, I am originally from America, so I'm basically teaching AP courses to kids who want to study abroad in America and who are on that track. So they like to hire foreign teachers to do that. As far as in China, I have obviously kept my chess hobby going. I played in a recent tournament. It was a national tournament, and the only stipulation for this tournament was that you cannot be FIDE rated above 2000. So it's mostly young people, up and comers. I played in the strongest section. They don't actually go by rating in the Chinese system. They go by like Jibia. It's sort of like if you've ever talked to a person who does karate, and then they'll say like, I'm so and so Dan black belt, like 1 Dan, 2 Dan, 3 Dan. The different levels are how they do it rather than a rating point system. So basically I didn't have any credentials to be in the highest section, but I got put in it by my own choice. So that was fun. And I finished with a score of 4.5 out of 9. We played 9 rounds in basically 2 days. There was 1 round the third morning. Time control was 50 minutes, and I guess I'll talk more about the tournament in a minute. But yeah, it was a totally cool experience to play a tournament in China. And I'll talk more about that. But the next topic actually was talking about Twitch, and I know a lot of you have been interested in having me stream, and I will be starting to upload videos. I'm in contact with chess.com, and I can't say exactly yet what the situation is, what's exactly going to happen, the timing of the stream or anything, because that's still not nailed down. But suffice to say, there will be at least bi-weekly streams from me coming out soon, and there will be a link to everything on my channel when I have it. Okay, so with that announcement out of the way, I can show you some cool stuff I got from this chess tournament. There was like a lanyard, and here's some proof. It says the 17th 2017 national tournament, the association, the National Association of Chess, and then it says the name of the city, which is Changsha. Yeah, and then this is a large black pawn that I got This is not a prize. It's a sort of a participation award for anyone who played. Pretty cool stuff. And yeah, I wasn't winning any awards with my score, but I was pretty happy with it because I haven't played a tournament since college, and that was about yeah, a few years ago now at this point. So uh, I had a slow start. I think I lost the first 2 rounds. The time control was 50 minutes with a 10-second increment. So every time you move, you get an extra 10 seconds. And it's a very uncommon time control if you're used to playing in the States, where we usually play either like, well, I guess rapid tournaments are similar to that, but we usually play long games, like 2 hours per person, and then an extra hour per after 40 moves made by each player. And that's what I prefer playing. So this was a bit of a fast time control, and well, the game quality suffered a little bit, but I got a very good position out of the opening. So let's go take a look at that. I'm gonna get rid of this notepad. Go to my browser. Okay, and I do purposely have my face positioned over the PGN file as well as the computer analysis, so that there's a little bit of suspense that can get built up here for you guys. Let's take a look at from the position of black, as I was black in this game. And white opened with knight f3, and I opened with knight f6, d4, d5, bishop f4, so this is the London system. Now I know that c5 is a move that's pretty good here, as when I'm playing the London system as white, it often comes up, but it's something that I haven't really studied. And a game where you have a lot of time to think, you can sort of make your own choices in the opening, and you'll have time to figure it out later. But in this time control, obviously this wasn't the first game I played, and I already knew from prior games that it was best to just stick with an opening that I knew. So I played c6, gives my queen the route to b6. I can later look at this b pawn, since white developed this queenside bishop so early. And usually white might follow this up with c3 or e3, something like that. He played knight bd2, and I went for a little bit of a cheeky g6. Gotta read those fianchettos. Yeah, I talked to a player stronger than me, and he said this isn't that good because then sometimes it's hard for this dark squared bishop to affect the queen side at all. But we'll see. This game certainly wasn't standard. Very exciting game by any measure. It looks boring right now. White played h3, bishop g7. And by the way, the stipulation that no one could be over 2,000 FIDE in this tournament just meant that most of the people I was playing were under 20 years old, and had not competed in foreign events yet. Of course, they were basically at the highest rank they could be, basically without playing internationally or going pro in their own country. So they were like the up-and-comers that were just getting ready to take that next step, at least for some of them. And I guess other than me, there were only like less than 5 people over 20 in my section of, I think, around 40 people. So I was playing a lot of kids, a lot of young kids, and yeah, some of them were giving me bruises, and some of them were not. So, but I did play some people around my age too later in the tournament. But yeah, every round after the round, I would hear from someone like, "Hey, you just played like the best young kid from this province, or the best young kid from this province," and it was really cool to make new acquaintances and everything in China. So e3. So far, white playing very standard. Bishop e3. This is where you want to put this bishop. I played knight bd7, queen e2. Now this move struck me as a bit premature. Um, and it made me think, yeah, maybe white is looking to castle queenside and make something happen. I noticed that a lot of the players in this tournament like to play quite aggressively, and I think this was towards the middle of the tournament where, if we were both on like a 50% score probably, and if you want to make a run at prizes, you'd still have time, but you'd have to win all your games. So I thought he might be trying to do something that could possibly be very double-edged, and it turned out that it was. I played rook e8, and after I saw this move, knight e5, well, I thought I could loosen a bit of the pressure on my position if I traded off one piece. So I did that. And then I played a5 to get some space, and it's also a waiting move to see which side white is going to castle, because that will heavily affect what I do next in the game. And then I saw this g4 come out, so white is definitely attacking my king. I didn't know if he was going to castle or what at this point. So I played a logical choice, I thought, which was queen b6 to test, if white is going to castle queenside, then he basically won't want to play b3 here because that will weaken him so much. And if he does castle queenside right now as a response to cover this b pawn, well, then at least I know that he's committed to that side. And looking over here, I didn't see too many pawn moves that would get me out of danger. So basically, unless there's a way you can close off this side with a pawn move or two, and there's no way for white to stop it, it's best not to touch these pawns at all, because that will just help white get to you faster. I mean, if you leave them here, then he has to walk all the way to you and then trade. If you move them up, he can trade faster. And he did castle queenside. And at this point, the computer analysis says that white is still a little favored, about half a pawn's worth of advantage. But in these type of positions, it's really not. That's really not usually like a grinding endgame where half a pawn's advantage is important. It's just about whoever can make the attack faster. So I played a4, and f4 came out, and a3. And I wasn't too worried that if black could play b3, he could lock it up, because after b3 came out, I had a very nice tempo gaining move, queen b4, that I found ahead of time. And basically, in this situation, I'm threatening to play queen c3 and queen b2 checkmate. And white has a few ways he can deal with that. He could try and run the king, in which case I can capture a2 and go promote another queen, unadvisable. Or he can bring the knight back to b1. So, I mean, this exchange of moves, my queen's getting closer to his king, and his pieces are moving on to horrible squares. That had to be a good, exchange for me there. And I felt that actually I had enough time here to play b6 and c5. So that's what I wanted to do. Obviously, c5 to open the file for my rooks coming to his king, but b6 in preparation, because I was a little worried about after c5 he would just trade, and then this dark square bishop could come to the defense with bishop c3, something like that. So if in that case I wanted to still have the backdoor option of pawn takes pawn, my b pawn takes pawn, and if he came back I could retreat the queen and still have this nice c4 to bust open this b3 pawn trifecta here. So he played rook over. I didn't think too many of white's moves were too explosive here. I would have liked to see something like f5 or g5 earlier. But obviously, if he wanted to play f5 on the last move. There was something going on. I'm trying to remember because this was played about 4 weeks ago now, the very beginning of October. All right. It was if you wanted to play g5, there was knight h5 and then a fork coming perhaps. So he was covering that perhaps. f5 I think was still probably a good option for him. Then I played c5 and then he played g5, but now it's a little bit too late, right? Because if he played g5 earlier, then I would have basically to move the knight. I would still have choices, right? Knight d7, knight h5, knight e4, where I was basically contemplating between those three. But now I have the option to just play. Sorry. Excuse me. The option to directly play c4. And after he takes the knight, I can take the bishop attacking his queen. Okay, it's okay if he takes this bishop because I take queen, so he has to take with the queen there. And then pawn takes on f6, so I basically got to open the c file and trade my knight here for his bishop on d3. Not to mention that this bishop now has a lot of trouble getting out of danger. Bishop c7, and then all of that was 100% what the computer said I should do with pushing c4, and then even this move, bishop f5, attacking the queen, threatening to bring the rook into c8 and get on this file. So I had calculated this a few moves ahead, and I was pretty happy with the result. Of course, there were other things that white could have done, and if you're curious, you can take a look at what some of those were. But now white is very limited in his choices because anytime I can bring the rook to c8, and even if he finds a place for the bishop to go, you know, he will still have to go somewhere with the bishop, and then I could take this pawn on c2. Unfortunately, he did find some nice defense here. So queen d2, and then this is awkward because I have to trade queens, right? If I bring the queen back anywhere, I might not be putting enough pressure on. Like I can't go to a5 because he'll trade. If I come back to e7, well then this b pawn hangs and his bishop can hide out on c5 and protect this entire file. So this is like a critical moment. And I basically had to trade this queen. Unfortunately for me, I thought this was looking like the end of my attack. Because when I played rook c8, I noticed that, well, after e4, which is what he played, then it was hard to get a grasp on c2 again. Like if I play pawn takes, which is what I played, then it's tough. It's possible, actually. I think the computer does. Yeah, the computer does suggest bishop takes or even rook takes. Actually, rook takes is the very best move, saying that black is over 4 points ahead at that point. But at this point, I don't even know if I was writing the moves down anymore. I wrote down a few more moves. That's right. I'm looking at my score sheet now. But we were both very low on time at this point, less than 10 minutes each. So I tried to go into an endgame that I thought would be easy, as that's sort of a commonly employed blitz strategy. Just if you can see an endgame that's winning, go into it. But sometimes that can backfire if you get into complications, where your opponent finds a better defense than you thought would be possible. And here, after bishop takes pawn, if I want to push this pawn now, well, I'm basically just giving up the pawn because I'm taking the defenders away from it, this bishop, and then his knight has to move, but it can jump to c4 and protect this c2 square again. So I was getting a little frustrated then, and I played bishop h6, getting along this diagonal. Also the computer's top choice. So basically my main mistake here was taking this pawn with the pawn. And then rook here came out. I took the pawn on f4. He played king to d1. And obviously this is still a winning position for black, and of course this is the time I again erred. Bishop takes knight on d2 is the best, and then after king takes, simply check here, and if rook takes, well, then I can finally gobble c2, and he won't be able to hold this rook anymore, so white would be completely busted at that point. The things I was looking at, though, were like rook c3, and I was trying to also win a rook over here by trapping it with my two bishops. Eventually, I just decided that I had to do something, and I played e3, which immediately gives away about 3 points of my advantage. It's now less than 2 points. Then knight c4 happened. I played bishop e4, chased this rook to f1. Then bishop g3, still trying to win material. Tactics are working for me here. If rook takes e3, I can simply take with check on c2, and then take the rook, and the knight will be pinned after king takes on c2. So he won't be able to take back on e3 here. But so this move came out. Then I directed the pawn here, and knight forked my rooks on e8 and c8, and I pinned this rook on e2. So after a few trades here, actually, white is slightly ahead in this position because of the 3 passed pawns over here. And I think, okay, well, actually now the computer's saying 0, 0, 0. So, well, it's certainly worse than what I had before, which was a clear win. I think at one point I was about 6 points ahead. So don't always assume that if your position is better, you can get a better endgame. You really have to find the best lines in every position. If you see a good move, try to find a better one. Fortunately for me, white was also low on time. He played c4 here, which is a good move. I played f5. Of course, there's no rush to take this rook, and in fact, I don't want to take it if I can help it until the moment I need to. Bishop a5, f4. So yeah, I'm trying to get my majority going before his majority gets going. And if I can use these 2 bishops to lock down these 2 rooks forever, well, then I'm just ahead a rook for a bishop. So, and I'm not actually really down in material right now, because anytime I can just take this rook. You know, if his king moves away, I get it for free. So, so he finally found a way to start loosening up the pressure here. And now I basically have to make all these trades. So I did that. And, well, this wasn't actually the best way for white. He could have just moved his pawns and kept the tension there as well. And it's possible he would have been faster than me, because my pawn here is not stopping these 3, while his pawn is really stopping me, as well as his king being in a perfect position already to stop my pawns, and my king being a far distance away. However, after all these trades, black is still about a pawn up in position. I do have 1 extra pawn on the board, and I don't have all the moves written down from after this because we were in time scramble, but I did manage to convert this endgame to a win. So it was a fun game, and I think I actually learned a lot from it too. You know, it wasn't even about me getting slack. I did get slack at some point there, obviously, and not convert as easily as I should have. I mean, it was basically just a time scramble at the end, and we were fighting for the chance to go up a point in the tournament and move up. But I learned something about how to manage a winning position when you're low on time, and you know, spending a little bit more time looking at alternatives, I think I would have seen through the way to actually get at c2 and bust white's position and get a resignation much earlier, rather than having to deal with such a stressful endgame position. because believe me, these 3 pawns came rolling very fast, and my king barely got time to get behind there. Also, because until I make, probably 5 or 6 more pawn moves over here, white doesn't even need this rook to defend. The king does it by himself. So he even moved the rook behind some of these pawns and started rolling them. It was very tough. So that's about my first tournament in China. That's the story. As far as the chess culture in China, it's definitely a very minor game. I would, percentage-wise, a lot fewer Chinese play chess than Americans, but of course they have the numbers, so they probably have more strong players than we do anyway. Or at least in their youth, they have a lot of people up and coming. So I would expect, in the next 10, 15 years to see a young Chinese guy or girl take a shot at the world title, or at least be a major contender in the candidates tournament. So yeah, let me know what you liked and disliked about this game in the comments, and I enjoyed, discussing something about myself with you. There's a lot more stories about chess and chess in China that can be saved for later. I don't want to make this video too long, but yeah, I'd be happy to talk over a wide variety of topics with you guys once the Twitch is up and running, and once again, I'll provide details of that when they are available. So thanks for watching again, and don't worry, Chess 4 is still the major content of this channel, and I'll be uploading a new video shortly. Well, definitely in the next 2 days. And yeah, I've been pretty busy recently with work, so I can't promise it'll be sort of like an everyday thing in the future, but we will get the stream up at least twice a week, so I will be happy to provide that for you guys. And thanks again for all your support, and thanks again if you subscribed. You are now part of the 1,000 strong, so thanks guys, and have a good Friday. Bye.